How do you conquer a country without firing a single shot? You make a secret deal with its rivals. In the early 20th century, France, Britain, and Spain decided the fate of Morocco in a backroom deal, trading away its sovereignty for a piece of the imperial pie. This one ship almost started World War I, a German gunship. In 1911, the German Empire sent a gunboat to Morocco to challenge France's ambition, sparking a crisis that brought Europe to the brink of total war. It was a bluff, a power play in the great game for empire. He was a king in name, but a prisoner in his own palace. The Sultan of Morocco was promised protection and modernization by the French Empire. What he got was a gilded cage. This is the political drama of how France used debt, diplomacy, and military threats to turn a sovereign ruler into a puppet and seize control of his kingdom. This is the story of the ultimate political betrayal and the diplomatic chess match that erased a nation's independence. Story of how France manufactured a series of international dramas to justify its conquest of Morocco. How are you, friends? I am Czar. Welcome to episode 5 of French Conquest in Morocco. Earlier, we discussed Algeria and Tunis, origin of Moroccan people, colonization by France, and resistance politically. The French invasion and conquest of Morocco occurred between 1907 and 1934, leading to the establishment of a French protectorate in 1912, though resistance continued for decades. Initiated after incidents like the occupation of Ouda in 1907 and intensified after the Agadir in 1911, the conquest formally concluded with the Treaty of Fez, which ceded Moroccan sovereignty to France and marked the beginning of French control. The Moroccan population is predominantly made up of Berbers, the indigenous inhabitants of North Africa, and Arabs who arrived in the 7th century. There is a significant mix of these two groups, with some people of sub-Saharan African and Jewish ancestry as well. The Agadir crisis was a diplomatic dispute in 1911 between Germany, France, and Britain that heightened tensions before World War I. Sparked by Germany sending the gunboat Panther to the Moroccan port of Agadir, ostensibly to protect German interests during a local rebellion, it was seen by France and Britain as a challenge to French influence and a threat to their interests. The crisis was resolved when France gained a protectorate over Morocco, while Germany received territories in the French Congo. The Treaty of Fez, signed in March 1912, established Morocco as a French protectorate under the authority of France, while the Sultan remained as a figurehead. Signed by Sultan Abd al-Hafid and the French, the treaty gave France control over Morocco's administration, economy, and foreign affairs, and allowed Spain to continue its coastal protectorate. This marked the end of Morocco's independence, leading to the modernization and exploitation of its resources for French interests and sparking resistance from Moroccan tribes. Reasons why Morocco was colonized: Germans and Britain rivalry. France colonized Morocco for a combination of economic gain, driven by Morocco's natural resources and strategic location for trade, and geopolitical ambition, to expand its colonial reach across North Africa and assert its power relative to other European nations like Britain and Germany. Ideological factors, such as the notion of a civilizing mission and the desire to spread French culture and influence, also played a role in justifying the colonization. The colonization of Morocco was part of the larger scramble for Africa, a period when European nations aggressively expanded their territories and competed for influence on the continent. France sought to establish a continuous west-to-east axis across Africa, which Morocco would form a vital part of. Morocco possessed mineral wealth and fertile agricultural land that France aimed to exploit for its own economic benefit, creating a modern agricultural sector geared toward the French market and tens of thousands of French colonists. France's actions were partly a response to other powers, particularly Germany, which had also sought influence in Morocco. A core belief among many Europeans was the white man's burden, or the idea that they were superior to other cultures and had a duty to civilize them. Beyond mere military occupation, France aimed to spread its culture, administrative systems, and language throughout Morocco, an endeavor that served to magnify its global image. Famous crises in Morocco for independence struggles. Like other colonial powers, France sought opportunities to trade and conduct business with Morocco, fostering economic development that primarily served the interests of the colonizing nation. Germany wanted always to challenge France's growing control over Morocco, aggravating France and Great Britain. The first Moroccan crisis was sparked by Kaiser Wilhelm II's visit to Morocco in 1905. On his trip, the Kaiser suggested his support for the Sultan to declare his independence from France. This challenged the French because they saw Morocco as in their sphere of influence in northern Africa. The Agadir incident, or Second Moroccan Crisis, was a brief crisis sparked by the deployment of a substantial force of French troops in the interior of Morocco in July 1911, and the deployment of the German gunboat SMS Panther to Agadir, a Moroccan Atlantic port, infrastructure built by France for their own interests. During its colonization, France established modern public health and educational systems in Morocco, significantly improving literacy rates and public health, while also introducing a modern Moroccan culture in areas like music and cuisine. However, this process was also characterized by political subjugation through a protectorate treaty, suppression of Moroccan nationalism, and the economic exploitation of Morocco's resources, particularly its minerals, for the benefit of French economic interests and investors. How was Moroccan life under French rule? Crimes of France in Morocco, brothels, and raped women by the Catholic Church. Life under French colonialism in Morocco was a mixed experience with significant hardships alongside some superficial modernization, characterized by the exploitation of resources and labor, the suppression of Moroccan sovereignty and identity, and social disruption. During French colonialism, the Catholic Church established significant institutions like schools and hospitals and saw increased presence due to European settlers, but its role in evangelizing Moroccan Muslims was largely suppressed, particularly by Governor-General Lyautey, who favored protecting Islam and Moroccan traditions. While French secularism existed, the colonial context framed the French as Christian versus Muslim savages, yet overt proselytization of the local population was generally discouraged. Bordel militaire de campagne, BMCs, were French military brothels in North Africa under colonial occupation. This system was extended to metropolitan France during the First and Second World Wars due to fears of sexual violence or consensual relationships between Moroccan men and French women. Even after brothels were banned in metropolitan France in 1946, French military authorities illegally brought hundreds of Moroccan women to France to work in BMCs because of the Moroccan soldiers still present in the metropole. With poor living conditions, underage labor, and a high workload, French military brothels exploited Moroccan women to theoretically protect European women against sexual violence from Moroccan men. This was based on a racialized understanding of Moroccan masculinity. Role of Sultan, killing of Algerian separatist leader, Untold conspiracy, Istiklal Party, independence. During the French Protectorate, 1912 to 1956, Morocco legally remained a sovereign state under the Sultan, but France held ultimate control over its defense, foreign policy, and jurisdiction, effectively running the country through a dual administration system. Morocco experienced economic exploitation through the control of its financial and resource sectors by French interests, alongside a distinct division of the country into agricultural Maroc utile and rural Maroc inutile, with different governance styles for each. The French also faced widespread armed resistance from Moroccan tribes and the rise of a nationalist movement, leading to suppression and eventual independence in 1956. The Sultan's authority was preserved in name, but his power was limited to Moroccan and Islamic affairs. While France controlled all other aspects of governance, Moroccan tribes, such as the Zayan Confederation, engaged in armed resistance against French control, particularly in the Atlas Mountains. The nationalist movement, led by the Band Istiklal Party, grew and protested against French policies, eventually leading to a widespread push for independence. Governor-General Marshal Hubert Lyautey attempted to create a joint Moroccan-French administration and establish a modern school system admiring Moroccan culture. After decades of nationalist efforts and resistance, Morocco finally gained its independence from French and Spanish protectorates in 1956. Mohammed V led the final stage of resistance, leading to Moroccan independence and the end of French rule. Though earlier 20th century armed resistance was primarily led by the Riffian leader Abd el-Krim and Berber tribal confederations. Abd el-Krim organized armed resistance against both French and Spanish forces, establishing a short-lived Rif Republic in the 1920s before being exiled. He was a pivotal leader in the early 20th century. He organized and led the powerful Riffian resistance against Spanish and French colonial control. This Berber confederation of tribes in the Atlas Mountains staged an armed resistance against French control between 1914 and 1921. Abd el-Krim and his forces achieved significant victories against the Spanish at the Battle of Annual in 1921, but were eventually defeated by a combined French and Spanish force of 200,000 soldiers, leading to Abd el-Krim's surrender and exile. In the years leading up to 1956, Mohammed V successfully negotiated for the restoration of Moroccan independence. It is interesting to know how Mohammed V secretly always helped France even during their war in neighboring Algeria. On October 22, 1956, French forces hijacked a Moroccan airplane carrying leaders of the Algerian National Liberation Front during the ongoing Algerian War. Mohammed V supported the FLN in the struggle for Algerian independence and offered to facilitate the participation of FLN leaders in a conference with Habib Bourguiba in Tunis. The plane, which was carrying Ahmed Ben Bella, Hossein Ait Ahmed, and Mohamed Boudiaf, was destined to leave from Palma de Mallorca for Tunis, but French forces redirected the flight to occupied Algiers, where the FLN leaders were arrested. In the aftermath, anti-French riots in and around Meknes in Morocco led to dozens of casualties. Historians believe that there was a secret hand from the king behind it. Mehdi Ben Barka was a Moroccan politician, head of the left-wing National Union of Popular Forces, UNPF, and secretary of the Tricontinental Conference. An opponent of King Hassan II, he disappeared in Paris in 1965. Social and economic problems of Morocco after independence. After the end of French colonization, Morocco faced problems related to establishing a stable political system, managing economic challenges from a dual agricultural system that favored colonial interests, and cultural losses from French assimilation policies. The imposition of Western culture and education created a disconnect from Moroccan indigenous knowledge, and the country also contended with the lingering effects of neocolonialism, including a continued dependency on foreign influence and markets. The legacy of centralized colonial power complicated Morocco's transition to a stable and democratic political system. The French education system promoted Western values and French culture, leading to significant cultural losses and the marginalization of local Moroccan culture and knowledge. Colonial legacies continue to contribute to issues of climate change, health equity, and social injustice in Morocco. French suppliers held monopolies on international markets, preventing local Moroccan suppliers from benefiting from trade. The focus on Western economic models and infrastructure projects displaced traditional industries and created economic disparities. The French established schools teaching Western ideas disconnected from Moroccan context, leading to a loss of indigenous knowledge and local voices. The promotion of French language and values aimed to instill assimilation, contributing to the marginalization of Arabic and indigenous Berber languages. Morocco, as a former Francophone colony, continues to experience the effects of neocolonialism and a dependency on foreign influence and Francophone networks. Local economies remain tied to French markets and suppliers even after independence, preventing full control over their resources and trade. French colonialism's impact on Moroccan society didn't only stop at a political and economic level, but its influence also had great cultural ramifications, in addition to changes in language and religion. France has not paid Morocco direct compensation for colonization. Instead, there are ongoing financial ties where Morocco receives significant French aid and investment. But this relationship is also characterized by neo-colonial aspects like the continued obligation of some African nations to deposit foreign reserves with the French treasury and pay colonial debts for infrastructure. While Morocco was a French protectorate and some infrastructure was built using Moroccan resources and financed by loans from French banks, The country has not received explicit financial compensation for the historical exploitation of its human and financial resources during the colonial era. Even during the French protectorate, infrastructure projects were built with Moroccan resources and financed by loans from French banks, with the benefits primarily going to France's economy. Pakistan issued a diplomatic passport to Ahmed Balafrej of Morocco. Historical records show that Pakistan issued a diplomatic passport to Moroccan politician Ahmed Balafrej in 1951 so he could address the United Nations and advocate for Morocco's independence, a move supported by Pakistan. Balafrej later became a key figure in Moroccan politics, serving as foreign minister and prime minister. Ottoman Empire support for Morocco before World War I. The Ottoman Empire attempted to support Moroccan resistance against French colonialism, particularly during World War I, by organizing and financially supporting anti-French operations through a clandestine organization called Teşkilat-i Mahsusa, Secret Service of the Ottoman Empire. Though these efforts ultimately failed to prevent French control and were complicated by the Ottoman Empire's own involvement in the war and declining power. As the Ottoman Empire and Morocco were geographically distant, their ability to effectively coordinate and provide sustained support was limited. France established a protectorate in Morocco, divided with Spain, which effectively ended any serious Ottoman influence or efforts to organize resistance. The resistance movements, including those supported by the Ottoman Empire, ultimately failed to dislodge French or Spanish control. Moroccanization by King Hassan II. On March 3, 1973, King Hassan II announced the policy of Moroccanization, in which state-held assets, agricultural lands, and businesses that were more than 50% foreign-owned, and especially French-owned, were transferred to political loyalists and high-ranking military officers. The Moroccanization of the economy affected thousands of businesses, and the proportion of industrial businesses in Morocco that were Moroccan-owned immediately increased from 18% to 55%. Still, this French fondness for Morocco has origins in the country's history as a French colonial protectorate from 1912 to 1956. The enduring post-colonial ties, both cultural and economic, help inform the long-running tourism flows from France to Morocco that have spanned generations since independence in 1956. Moroccans living in France today, migration of Jews from Morocco. There are roughly 1.2 to 2.2 million people of Moroccan origin living in France, with the exact number varying depending on whether one counts only first-generation immigrants or includes descendants across multiple generations. The community of first-generation Moroccan immigrants in France numbers approximately 850,000, making them the largest Maghrebi community in the country. After the French protectorate ended in 1956 and Morocco gained independence, its Jewish population experienced a significant exodus, with over 200,000 Jews emigrating by the 1970s, primarily to Israel, due to a combination of factors including the establishment of Israel, fears of violence, state policies like Arabization, and economic opportunities abroad. The emigration was largely facilitated by clandestine operations like Operation Yashin and continued throughout the late 20th century, leaving a small community of a few thousand Jews in Morocco today. Thank you for being with me. Your attention to my contents means a lot to me. We shall meet in the next episode of French Invasion in Senegal. Please stay tuned. Your subscription, commenting, and liking keep me motivated to highlight the historical events of the French Empire. Take good care of yourself and your well-wishers.